Investigators applied for and were granted search warrants by the court to obtain historical call detail records to include cell site locations of cellular devices known to be utilised by LETECIA and Harley. Your affiant has reviewed information from this analysis and in summary learned the following information. Historical cell site analysis helps to determine the location of a cellular telephone based on cell tower antenna locations and orientation. Locations are determined by activity of the cellular telephone and represent an approximate area, not an exact location. Different cellular carriers report this information in different formats and fashions. The historical cell site analysis identified unusual activity for LETECIA, including potentially disconnecting her cell phone from the cellular network for several hours. I submit that by disconnecting the phone, LETECIA intended to prevent law enforcement from being able to determine her location. Specifically, this occurred on January 28th, 2020. During the evening, she disposed of Gannon's remains. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for LETECIA's cellular telephone. A physical download was conducted and investigators were able to recover data inclusive of text messages, call records, the specific times her cell phone was unlocked, battery levels and other information. In summary, investigators learned that LETECIA lied to her employer, her husband, her friends, her daughter and the children's babysitter. I will not include each and every text message or lie. Additionally, there are messages that would otherwise tend to corroborate her statements about Gannon's whereabouts on the afternoon of January 27th, if in fact he did go to play with his friends. As discussed in other portions of the affidavit, LETECIA's story was false and misleading, and these messages were likely sent by her as a part of a larger plan to support her initial lies about his disappearance. For example, on January 28th, at approximately 05:14 hours, LETECIA had a conversation with Stephanie, the children's babysitter, saved in the phone as Stephanie Sitter. There is no indication that Gannon ever went to a doctor, and LETECIA never brought that up with investigators. Some, but not all, of their conversation is pictured. LETECIA made statements to investigators via text message that could be considered exculpatory in nature, related to the presence of blood in the basement of their residence as seen in the pictured text message. Just as a side note there from me, exculpatory evidence is evidence that could assist the defendant, so in this case LETECIA, could work in her favour. That's what exculpatory evidence is. I have talked with investigators that were inside the STAUCH residence on January 27th, 28th and 29th. There was no odour of smoke and no evidence of smoke. In fact, one detective noted the basement smelled like coconut and was very pleasant. Furthermore, I know that burns oftentimes do not produce wounds that bleed profusely. The below message appears to contain instructions from LETECIA to Harley to purchase carpet powder, baking soda, trash bags, on or about January 27th at 4:52 p.m. These messages are important because investigators believe the purpose of these items was to clean up blood from the murder of Gannon. This text message was also referenced in earlier episodes. Investigators also recovered limited GPS and location data from LETECIA's phone. There are crucial time periods such as the evening on January 28th that investigators were not able to recover location history because LETECIA disconnected her phone from the cellular network or turned the phone off. LETECIA stored several written notes within her iPhone. The majority of these notes contained what appeared to be usernames, passwords, or insurance information. There were several notes that appeared to reference her unhappiness in the relationship and shed some light on potential household instability. I was able to review some, but possibly not all, of the stored internet search history and the websites visited, recovered from the forensic physical download and search of LETECIA's iPhone. Between the dates of January 25th and January 28th, 2020, LETECIA viewed websites associated with searching for a job in states other than Colorado, such as Los Angeles, California, Orlando, Florida, Pensacola Beach, Florida, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. LETECIA also viewed apartments and two-bedroom rental properties in Florida. Additionally, she visited a moving cost calculator website. LETECIA's internet activity also captured the search for a rental car and visited the website Priceline.com on January 28th at or about 08:17 hours. I submit this timing is consistent with the acquisition of the Kia Rio mentioned in this affidavit. LETECIA appeared to use Google, a popular online search engine. I have included some of her queries to Google, along with the date and approximate time of the search. Not all of her Google searches are included below. I submit that LETECIA's search history is important because the history suggests she might have been struggling as a step-parent and additionally suggests she was not happily married to Mr. STAUCH. See items 1, 10, 12, 13, 14. While her search history alone does not provide motive to murder Gannon, it does shed light on her inquisitive thoughts of her position with the family, memorialized in Google's search engine. I also direct the court's attention to the way LETECIA's search terms are sometimes entered. LETECIA hits the quotations key instead of the space key multiple times while searching the internet in approximately 44% of the searches listed. This will be significant during the discussion of a search conducted on Gannon's phone, as was discussed above in paragraph 40, and will be further discussed below. There are other searches on LETECIA's phone that use a quotation, and additional search history over a longer time span does exist that is not listed below. And these are the interesting search terms that are included in the affidavit. There were more, but obviously these are the most relevant ones to the case. Find real military singles. Parenting should be 4 people, not 1. I'm overdoing all the work for my stepkids and their mum doesn't help. Mum advice from stepmum. If you aren't involved in your kid's life, you are shitty. My husband's ex-wife does nothing for her kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a card since I raise her kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a Valentine's card since I raise her kids. One day some people will wish they treated you differently. Why should my husband choose me over family? Find me a rich guy who wants me to take care of his kids. Find a guy who wants me to take care of his kids and get paid. It's crappy some parents don't care for their kids or buy them presents. Parents are those who put their kids before their nails. My son burnt the carpet, how do I fix it? Will humidifier help if exposed to smoke? Smoke effects, will humidifier help? Smoke from fire effects, will humidifier help? Colorado law for kids stating at home. I think that's supposed to be staying at home. School is out. Is it okay for my kid to stay home alone? Son is sick, but I have to go to work. Son is sick. Can he stay home? Suede repair kit for sofa. El Paso Sheriff's Office number. What is the process for our runaway child? Police steps for our runaway. Police steps for our missing child. Today's flight OKC to CDS. Can Nintendo find my Switch? CarNet Volkswagen, and they are asking for our son's toothbrush but said nothing is wrong. Investigators were also able to recover internet search history that was deleted from LETECIA's phone. No time and date association was located with the data, and I can only ascertain that the services were conducted prior to the EPSO seizing LETECIA's phone on January 29th. Some, but not all, of the search history is included below. Some of the other deleted search terms included travel planning, shopping, job searches, and other seemingly innocent activity. I have not purposefully left out any particular search that would be exculpatory in nature, and I am not intending to portray that all of LETECIA's deleted searches were nefarious in nature. So these are some of the search terms that were recovered from deleted information on the phone. Find me a new husband book. I feel like I'm just a nanny, not a stepmom. Husband uses me to babysit his kids. Are there any free money to move away from bad situation? My husband never posts about me but does everything else. My husband only cleans up for the army, not me. I'm just a glorified babysitter. Find a new husband. Sent my husband sexual messages and he ignored them. Make my husband want me more. I feel like my husband uses me to babysit his kid. Find a guy without kids. During the first 24 to 48 hours surrounding the disappearance of a child, it is reasonable that an assumingly innocent parent or step-parent would be contributing to search efforts and fully participating in the effort to recover the child. In the 24 to 48 hours surrounding Gannon's disappearance, LETECIA rented a vehicle, turned her cell phone off for approximately 4 hours on the evening of January 28th, washed her Tiguan immediately prior to coming to the EPSO for an interview, evaded law enforcement's attempts to conduct a more in-depth interview, and did not participate in the search for Gannon. On Tuesday, January 28th, between 08:48 and 08:54, LETECIA instructed Harley to pull your car into the garage via text message, presumably to temporarily cover up any potential evidence left behind. To be clear, Harley has her own vehicle that was mentioned above in paragraph 13, specifically a Volkswagen Jetta. On January 28th, at approximately 16:04 to 16:17 hours, investigators asked LETECIA for Gannon's toothbrush to recover his DNA. At or about 16:19 hours, LETECIA did a search in her internet browser of "They are asking for our son's toothbrush," but said nothing is wrong. At or about 16:31 to 16:33 hours, LETECIA has a text conversation with Mr. STAUCH. LETECIA says, "Something isn't right. I think they are hiding something." Al says, "Who? The police?" LETECIA, "Yes, they asked for toothbrushes." Mr. STAUCH, what do you think they're hiding? Also on January 28th, at or about 22:45 hours, LETECIA made a statement to investigators via text message. At the time of this statement, Gannon had been missing for approximately 27 hours, and LETECIA believed she was a subject in his disappearance without any prior prompting from law enforcement or notification of such. LETECIA said, "What do you want from me? Because I have nothing. One of your very own leaked to me what you guys were doing. I did nothing and or am being set up. I'm not even really sure other than being told that by another blue with El Paso. I was told I couldn't go home to sleep, and on top of that, men were sent to a home with a minor female, and she was forced to stay there, not to even leave for food. Every conversation that said, even at this moment I can hear inside, 'What do you want from me?' Detective Bethel replies, 'Come in to talk to me. I would just like information to find Gannon.' After EPSO investigators seized LETECIA's Volkswagen on January 29th, she obtained a 2020 Nissan Altima. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant by this court to install a GPS tracker on the vehicle. Investigators monitored this tracking device, which provided particularly useful information on January 31st. A map with some of this data is pictured. This information will be discussed more and relates to the area north of Palmer Lake and along Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. In summary, investigators believe LETECIA utilized the rented Nissan Altima to return to the area in which she disposed of Gannon's body. Indeed, investigators recovered a piece of particle board from this area with Gannon's blood on it. This information will be discussed in more detail. The fact LETECIA came back to this area on January 31st is significant, and investigators have not uncovered any evidence that LETECIA has family or friends that live in that area, or any legitimate reason for her presence in that area other than to dispose of incriminating evidence. I submit a reasonable theory for the fact LETECIA returned to this area based on the information presented in this affidavit as follows. LETECIA disposed of Gannon's remains at night time and likely was nervous about the location she chose, and may not have even remembered exactly where she dumped Gannon's remains. Investigators believe that on January 31st, she went back to the area to view the area while sunlight was available, to ensure no evidence was viewable from the road, to ensure his remains were adequately covered to prevent detection, and to see if any law enforcement was in the area.